ClandesTime.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to ClandesTime. I am Tom Secker, coming to you from the grassy knolls of North Yorkshire, and this is episode 56, Covert Currency War? Or, It's All Gone a Bit Pacific Rim. So I was going to release the episode on Kingsman as the next one, but I haven't had the time to listen back to the recording yet and edit it up. But we did manage to record a conversation on that film that covered a lot of good ground, so that will be coming soon, I promise. But I did want to do a short episode on what has recently been happening in East Asia. The explosions in Tianjin in China on August 12th grabbed a lot of attention, and then there was another series of explosions on August 15th as the fires at the original explosion site continued to burn. On August 22nd, another explosion hit China, this time in Qingdao in the province of Shandong. And then later in the day, there was yet another explosion at a US military base in Japan. And a lot of this was captured on video, which is where my first question comes from. The media, all over the world, mainstream, alternative, government, private, whatever, reported 2 explosions in Tianjin on August 12th. But one video that has been doing the rounds, a very popular video that has had at least 60 million views just on Facebook, which is where I saw it. It's a quite horrible and amazing and spectacular video all at once, but it clearly shows 3 explosions. And just listen, or listen and watch if you're watching the video version of this podcast.
Did you get that? Fuck yeah, I'm videoing it. What the fuck?
I think that might be a gas station or something.
Fuck yeah, it's a gas. Whoa! Oh, what the? Holy shit! No fucking way! Oh shit! Oh shit! No, baby! Oh, no!
Please! Are we dangerous here?
Yeah, we're dangerous. Oh my god! Oh dear!
Are you filming?
Yes, I'm filming!
Wow! Wow! I think we are dangerous.
Let's go!
So we have 3 distinct explosions, each one much bigger and louder than the previous one. And in particular, if you're watching the video, or if you do watch the video, you'll see that the first one is quite small, but it's definitely an explosion of some kind. So why is everyone only reporting 2 explosions? Massive media incompetence? Everyone just copying everyone else's story and going with the flow? Hard to say. It is interesting that there has been the typical Chinese government clampdown on all of this. Very few videos and images of the aftermath of these explosions have been made it out into the public domain, very few relatively speaking. And this is a bit like China's 9/11. It was massively promoted when it happened, but no real discussion has taken place once the smoke has cleared. Naturally, that vacuum has been filled with speculation, as always happens. A lot of the alternative media are linking the explosions in China with whatever happened at the American Army base in Japan. And the most popular theory, or at least the most popular one that I've seen, is that this is some kind of covert war between China and the US, which is a result of China devaluing its currency and thus causing the US no end of financial trouble. And I have 3 major objections to this idea. And lots and lots and lots of minor ones, but I want this to be a nice short show, so we'll stick with 3. Objection number 1 is that these sorts of so-called news outlets, like Natural News, that are floating this idea, are the same people who say that China and the US, and Russia and everyone else, are all secretly on the same side. They like to dig up that line from Soros about predicting that China would become the engine of the New World Order, as though that proves something. And the obvious problem with this is that, well, so where does this secret behind-the-scenes meta-conspiracy, which is something a lot of people endorse on very, very flimsy grounds, where does that meta-conspiracy end and this covert war of currency devaluation begin? Objection number 2. This is not how a covert war is played out. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the Chinese devaluing their currency by the princely sum of 1.9%, not exactly the biggest currency devaluation in the recent history of economics, but let's say that did piss off the Yanks enough for them to declare some kind of covert war on China. Why would they attack China's manufacturing region? That's what's powering the Chinese ability to keep buying American debt. And, for that matter, keeping the American consumer economy afloat without them really having to pay for it. Of course, Alex Jones and everyone talks about this as some kind of transfer of wealth to the Chinese, when the reality is that the opposite is true. The US gets a load of badly made toothbrushes and smartphones. The Chinese get a bunch of paper promises to pay them later. In terms of real wealth, it is going from China to the US. But that, of course, doesn't fit in with the self-victimizing attitude of a lot of Americans who praised the free market when they were shitting money and oil was $2 a barrel, but they got all pissy when the Chinese and others started undercutting them because they could get people to build cheap TVs and work for a fifth of the price. Though no doubt if the TV was made in America, they wouldn't want to do the work themselves. Oh, no, they'd want an illegal immigrant to do it so that it was cheap, while simultaneously complaining about illegal immigrants coming here and taking their jobs. So none of that makes any sense. If the aim of this hypothetical covert currency war was to make the Chinese start buying US debt at a very rapid rate once again, because they have been slowing down on that score, it is true, then some kind of financial sabotage would make a lot more sense. What you do is somehow bugger up the Chinese stock market, cause a run on the yen, investors flee into other markets, and thus money goes into apparently safer things like US and European debt, T-bills and treasury notes and all that. You don't accomplish that by blowing up a hazardous waste dump in Tianjin and a factory in Shandong. This isn't fucking World War II trying to blow up a train line because it's the only way to get some troops from one place to another. The world is a smaller place now, to quote the Greek from The Wire. And objection number 3. In all of this alt-media hypothesizing about currency wars and special weaponry and so on, they've completely lost sight of 2 important things. First, that the Chinese government has absolutely no respect for human rights. 200, 300 people killed in a massive factory explosion, thousands more poisoned, yet thousands more forcibly relocated because of the toxic spill. They don't give a shit. Plenty more where that came from. It's like Britain or America when they were going through their rapid industrialization periods. The cost of human lives is put at less than their dollar value, even. And so the point is this. Just as the Chinese do not give a fuck about the cost of human lives and suffering in running these outrageously dangerous industries with no health and safety and no workers' rights and no basic decency and respect, the alt-media doesn't either. To them, the people who died and are suffering as a result of this are just slitty-eyed wogs who are the victims of some super awesome space-based weapon the American used to kick China's ass as part of this covert currency war. That's the actual tone that comes across from most of this media coverage. And this is because, as per usual, most of the alt-media is right-wing petty bourgeois bullshit. Workers' rights? That sounds like communism. And Ron Paul says regulation is what's holding back the economy. So that can't be something that the alt-media promotes. Respect for the Chinese, indeed respect for anyone who isn't a white middle-class Christian? Well, that sounds like communism. Or even worse, multiculturalism. And we can't have that, oh no! Because that's a cultural Marxist collectivist plot to get rid of white people. I'm serious. While industrial state capitalism is running rampant in China, and this sort of thing is happening relatively frequently, the alt-media is far more concerned with perpetuating misleading crap than talking about what's really going on. Likewise, what happened in Tianjin in particular was environmentally very damaging. All kinds of horrible stuff was stored there, and an awful lot of that has now been set on fire and is making its way around the world as part of the atmosphere. We're probably all breathing it in and out right now. In minuscule quantities, if we're talking about this one particular event, but you get my point. The real story here is one of industrialization gone mad, of having more respect for making money by storing highly dangerous stuff in massive quantities, and we're talking thousands of tons here. More respect for that than for the world we're living on, or the people we're living with. And if the alt-media was truly an alt-media, that's the story that they'd be telling. Instead, we're getting a load of crap about a covert currency war that contradicts everything these same people have been saying about the covert relationship between the US and China. So, let me, in the name of all that is idiotic and fucked up about the alt-media, make an absolute disgrace of myself on air and propose a different hypothesis. I think that all of this is the work of a kaiju. And for those of you who don't know what a kaiju is, the word is spelt K-A-I-J-U, and it roughly translates as strange monster or giant monster. Those of you who have seen Pacific Rim, the 2013 movie, will be very familiar with kaiju. And those of you who haven't seen Pacific Rim just think of Godzilla and associated mega-creatures. So my hypothesis is as follows. The initial explosions on August 12th in Tianjin were the result of a kaiju seeking some sort of food or whatever that it needed from this massive chemical dump. And I suspect that the biggest explosion, which some people have wrongly attributed to a nuke, was some sort of attempt to kill the kaiju. The later explosions on August 15th were when the kaiju, which had remained in the area, secluded in a cave or whatnot, was discovered and had to escape. It then crossed the sea to the border between North and South Korea, which is why 5 days later, on August 20th, you had that little set 2 that was explained as some kind of random small-scale artillery battle between the two countries. And they successfully repelled the kaiju, which returned to China, hence the explosion in Qingdao a couple of days later. That afternoon it swam to Japan and assaulted the US military base there. I can only assume that this was some kind of revenge, because I assume that it was the Americans who tried to kill the kaiju in Tianjin. Hence all the media cover-up, the censorship, the unanswered questions. The fact that the kaiju attacked a munitions store on the US base in Japan suggests that they used some kind of experimental bomb against the monster in the initial battle at Tianjin. The kaiju correctly identified this as an American weapon from the base in Japan, and so set out to destroy it. And that, my friends, is just as plausible as 9/10 of the stuff out there about these events. In reality, these events are probably not connected. People are just connecting the dots no matter how far apart they are. In reality, there's no way that the kaiju could have swum from Qingdao in China to the US base in Japan. It's just too far in too little time. Even a kaiju can't swim that fast. So the links between these events are tenuous at best, subject to the same God of the Gaps logic as a lot of theories, especially conspiracy theories. And so, in summing up this very short meditation on what's been happening in East Asia, I can only offer the following advice. 1. Don't believe everything you read. 2. Don't trust anyone who tells you they know the truth about what happened. And 3. Watch out for kaiju. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up for today. The 3 episodes that I'm working on for ClandesTime, or at least trying to find the time to work on, are the one on Kingsman, the one on the murder of Marilyn Monroe, and one on the TV show Fargo and how it breaks the mold in terms of contemporary portraits of psychopaths in entertainment culture. The conversation I had with Adam about Kingsman was relatively long, over an hour long, and so I just haven't had the time to edit it up yet, but that should be coming very soon. It is very much the next one on my list. And before I go, I will also tell you about an idea that we have in the works. Pierce Redmond and I have been discussing doing a review of Homeland Season 5, where we go episode by episode, doing one conversation a week. That is, of course, time permitting, but the new season doesn't start until the beginning of October, so we've got a few weeks to get some other stuff out of the way first. And if we don't do a weekly review show, we will naturally do a full review when the show finishes. On similar lines, we are also working on the CIA and Hollywood Season 2, trying to nail down which films to cover and with which guests. We probably won't be doing any of the CIA's films from this year, Trumbo, Spy, American Ultra, because it's hard to get enough perspective on a film when it has only recently come out. So we'll be looking at some older films, some newer films. We've got a lot of ideas and enthusiasm, and it will happen, though it may be the beginning of next year rather than the end of this year when it actually surfaces. But rest assured, that series is continuing and the second season will be coming pretty soon. In the meantime, I hope you are all signing up for Boiling Frogs Post subscriptions so you can get all the media that's being made there, including my show Disinfo Wars. And if you want to support me in other ways, then please consider getting a copy of my book, Secret Spies in 7/7, or a digital download of the CIA and Hollywood Season 1. If you have literally no money, then at least subscribe to this podcast at spyculture.com, via RSS feed, via email, via iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, whatever is your preference. But I think we'll leave it there. As always, I am Tom Secker of spyculture.com, and you've been listening to ClandesTime, so thanks for listening, and take care.